Hey, Maniacs, welcome back to another Designer's Studio episode. Today we have a special guest joining us, Andreas, otherwise known as ASAP Animation, and he put together something pretty cool for us. All right, Andreas, so you're joining me today to talk a little bit more about this bad boy, which is the MB240, your first kit that you produced for Brickmania. Kind of a unique vehicle. We talked a little bit about it when we were working on the product description. What can you tell me about why this one was particularly important to you?
Yeah, it's super exciting to be here, and also being just able to do this model. So I come from Norway, I live in Oslo, and I grew up in a military town, and I'm used to seeing this car just going all around town. So I didn't think much about it at the time when I lived there, but when I moved out, I was just thinking like, oh, I never seen anyone make that in Lego before, so I thought, why not make it myself? So yeah, it's just like very standard utility vehicle, truck used all over the world. I was checking through the Wikipedia and I saw like, yeah, there were over like almost 50 countries, I believe, using this vehicle. It was pretty crazy. So I just felt like this is something that Brickmania needed, something more than all the standard US American stuff.
Yeah, it definitely fits that bill of something that kind of is like not necessarily something we've ever done before, but when you look around the world at militaries everywhere, it's like this is a very common sight.
Yeah, and also it is also used in America, I believe. I've also seen like the Canadian Army uses it, and I've seen Marines driving this all around. So just a very commonly used vehicle. We did fit it with Norwegian markings, the Norwegian flags. I thought that was fitting. That was one of my requests when I did the kit. But they're very easy to change if you want to do like a German or a Dutch or a Danish model. When I started posting picture of it, I got a lot of people sending me messages from all over the world, just from Denmark and Netherlands, and people saying, oh, I've seen this before, or oh, I've worked in this vehicle before. So yeah, really cool.
So tell me a little bit about, when you started the design process, was this kind of an existing build that you had that kind of translated into kit form, or was this something you really put together from the ground up?
Yeah, so it's something that I just started working on for myself. I started making it 6 studs wide, but then I felt like that was a bit too slim, although this is a very, very slim car, but also very tall. So my first edition was just like exaggerating that, but now it's more natural. I think I feel it's more fitting right now. But I got a lot of help from Mary making this possible. I was working with her all the time, just sending pictures back and forth and working on the digital models, and she's been very helpful getting me into everything with everything, all of the digital models and instructions and everything that you need to do to make this available. So a big shout out to Mary.
Yeah, that's awesome. She certainly is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things construction. So when I look at this, especially when you try to shrink the size of any of these vehicles, you kind of run into that whole like, oh man, is it going to be a hollow box? You know what I mean? Am I going to grab this thing and will it squish apart or whatever? This thing, for the functions it has, is an incredibly durable and solid model. It's a lot of fun to like drive around and bump, kind of like you would with a Jeep or whatever. So is that kind of integrity something that was pretty important to you from the get-go? Is like, this has to be something people can really play with?
Yeah, I come from animation, so it's always very important to me to have something that is sturdy, because I've tried so many times to do an animation with an unsturdy model, and then you've taken 100 pictures of it and it falls apart, and then you have to start all over. So that's always very important to me, but I was kind of lucky here because I didn't intend to use this for animation. So when I built it, I didn't focus too much on the integrity. I was just very lucky that it's actually like a brick. You can drop it. I've tried to drop it from pretty high up and it wouldn't break. So just, really lucky there, I think.
Well, and it's pretty spacious too. I mean, if you look at the room these minifigs got to ride around in this thing, I mean, that's compared to a lot of the cockpits, et cetera, that Brickmania minifigs have to deal with. I think they would definitely prefer the change of pace that your MB240 offers.
Yeah, so it can fit two people in one driver and one passenger, but they are a bit crammed in there. But you can fit them pretty well. You can also fit a couple figures in the back, but it's like the real car. They have to sit really crammed in the back because it's actually very tiny inside the real thing. They try to use this as troop transports in real life, and then you just have to cram all the soldiers, and they sit like this when they go traveling. So it's very accurate that you just have to push them in there, but you can fit a couple in the back. But also there's room for one figure that can stand on top of it. And yeah, I can show you right here in the model that if you remove the figure in the top, I don't know if you can see it right there, but there's a plate right there where you can just have your figure resting. You can stand there and just look out. So I think that's that's a pretty cool feature, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I love having the functional turret stuff. I mean, that just makes it playable. So tell me a little bit about what this vehicle means to the Norwegian Armed Forces specifically.
Yeah, the Norwegian Armed Forces, they have stated, at least the special forces have stated, that they prefer this car over like the heavier and more up armored vehicles because they really like that speed and mobility. Because they often want to get out of a situation instead of being stuck in a situation and being more likely to be shot at. So just having all that speed and durability is very important to the Norwegian Army, and yeah, that's very important to them.
It's kind of a different thing. You take that armor away because you want to be able to move in and out of situations way faster.
Yeah, there are also different versions of this. There is a version that is up armored and has a lot more armor on the sides and on the top. It's in the Norwegian Army. It's used for the Royal Guards, I know, but it's also used in field. They use it also, but this is what you would usually see. But they also have all sorts of different variations of this vehicle. There's like Humvee, it's ambulance variants, and there's up armored. There's some with like grills on the top. There's some just without the top, just having a bunch of machine guns out of the windows and everything. So when I did the research on this one, I couldn't really decide what versions to do. So I think this one was nice, but there's also hundreds of different modification and variants you can do to this, just making it as best as you can for the type of mission you're at. So yeah.
Well, and obviously, special forces missions aren't always like out to the public and available for everyone to know. But to your knowledge, what are maybe some of the critical roles that this has played in the Norwegian Army or armed forces?
Yeah, well, it first they started using this in the 80s, because before that they had I think like the Jeep and like the Mutt. And those cars, they didn't have roofs, or if they had a roof, they wouldn't have windows either. So for the really cold and Arctic climate of Norway, it was very important to shield the soldiers from the weather. So this is very durable, and it can withstand pretty much any weather. They use it in the desert, and you can use it way up in north in the harshest areas, and it runs pretty well. So that's why they still use it today. It's like over 40 years old, but yeah, they still use it. It's like a veteran car at this point.
If it's still doing its job, right?
Yeah. So it's it fits well with like the Norwegian soldiers, because many consider the Norwegian soldiers to be some of the best in the world. Norway doesn't have like a large army, but the way the soldiers are trained, they are trained in like the harshest conditions that you can face, really. Because like if you are in a jungle and you don't know anything, you can survive up to a couple weeks. If you're in the desert and you don't know anything about the desert, you can at least survive a couple of days. But if you're in the Arctic climate and you don't know anything, you won't last a couple hours even. So just being trained to survive and fight in the Arctic, that really gives like the Norwegian forces an edge, I think. So yeah, they are considered pretty badass. That's why we I wanted to have like the Norwegian figures and everything. Yeah.
Well, now, considering the relaxed regulations that they have on beards and hair, etc., it certainly paid off in these minifigs, because these things got some awesome 3D printed accessories that really gives them some personality.
Yeah, Lando did a great job on the figures. But the reason I really wanted to have like the female figure is because the Norwegian army is pretty diverse. They have a lot of female soldiers, like yeah, just like way ahead of most countries, and also like all different ethnicities and everything, all types of genders and ethnicities, and yeah, just a lot of variation.
Translates well into an effective fighting unit, clearly, if they're regarded as some of the best in the world. So before we move on to these figures, because we are going to bring in Landon here and have him talk through it a little bit, tell us a little bit more about you. Obviously, we saw that awesome animation to intro this episode, so we know a little bit about ASAP Animation and your presence on social media, etc. But how did you come into the Lego world, and what's a little bit of your backstory?
Yeah, so I'm 23-year-old and I live in Oslo. And my start with Lego, I've just been building Lego all of my life, but when I was 9 years old, I really got into animation. Just starting taking pictures with my phone and doing small little animations, and it just evolved. And so I've been just doing a whole ton of animation, but now in the last couple of years, I've moved more from animation and more into model building. And yeah, that's why I really wanted to build a couple of my own vehicles. I've been a Brickmania fan for a really long time. I got my first Brickmania kit back in 2010, I believe. So I've been a fan for a long time, and so it's really just great being able to produce some kits for you guys. So right now I live in Oslo and I study film and TV production. I'll be finished with my bachelor's degree this summer, and yeah, then all is up in the air.
Well, so tell me a little bit about how this came to be, the collaboration between you and Brickmania, because obviously you're an excellent builder, so no doubt there, but it's not like, every excellent build is necessarily kit worthy. Tell me how this kind of like came together, and how we eventually got you your own kit.
Yeah, so I was really just putting together my kit, and I thought what was unique about this kit was that I haven't really seen anyone else make it. There's also like, when you look online, you can see like 50 versions of a Sherman, so making like a Sherman tank wouldn't interest me at that point, at least. So just really trying to find something new and make that as good as possible. And so the first version I sent to Dan, that was just really rough. That I tried reaching out to him, just saying, oh hey, I made this kit that no one else has made, what do you think about it? And he said that it was a good start, but it needed a lot of work. So I worked at it for many months before I came back and said, hey, I got something new. So this is the prototype model that was like the last version I built before I sent it off to Dan. It has like different wedge plates here in front, but they are not easily available in tan, so we couldn't use that. But a lot of the features are the same. The only reason we really did it in dark green is the reason I did it in dark green is because that's what I'm used to seeing it as in Norway. It's a cool camouflage, but you would most likely you would see it in tan when it's used in field, so that's more accurate, I feel. But if you have bought the kit, you have instructions, so you can do the dark green versions if you'd like. The dark green pieces are a lot more expensive, but you have that option as well. And then he was interested, and we just started from there. And then Mary took over, and then me and Mary have been working together making this one, and also my next kit that is has already been on pre-order.
Well, Well, maybe we should flip that name from ASAP to a completely sold out animation or something along those lines. Because not only did we completely move this initial batch of the MB240, but my goodness, the restock flew, and then I don't think that German radio car didn't stick around very long either. You got to be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Just really surprised. I wasn't expecting it to sell out at all. I was just thinking like, oh, is this good enough even? But I was very happy.
Yeah, that's, the response from the community was definitely excellent. I'm sure part of that was the minifigs as well. But then also, I just think that who especially here even has something like this. That's what you were saying, especially a Norwegian one at the last. Even if you are American, Dutch, from Peru, whatever, this is still a cool thing to have. And like you said, it definitely has that air of uniqueness.
Yeah, so I tried to. I'm obviously very familiar with the Brickmania, some of the techniques that you're known for and using. So I build off of that, but I also try to work in some new techniques. Like the wheels that are used on this vehicle, I don't think is used that much from Brickmania. So I think people wanted to see. I think people is happy when there's something new and something. Yeah, trying to bring something new to it. Yeah.
Yeah, fresh perspectives. I think that's kind of what this entire initiative here, with BMR, John Canada, yourself, or John Canepa, and yourself, et cetera, has kind of been, is to just kind of open this thing up and really let the world be able to see some of these amazing creations. And like you learned throughout the process, it's not necessarily like, oh, great build, let's turn it into a kit. There's definitely a long process into building something that meets those quality standards. But man, I think you absolutely knocked this one out of the park.
So I can talk about the features of the model. If my camera is on right here, I think I can show it off. So the features that I did for the model, I put working doors on both sides that I think they fit pretty well. They fit kind of snug in there, and also the opening back door opened. I think that that one turned out really well with like the spare wheel and jerry can on the back, and you can see it fits a minifigure on top, which has the M2HB, or like the 12.7 millimeter gun, and you can fit a figure up in there, just holding on to that weapon. You can also remove the weapon if you like to and change it out, because these guys, they change out the weapons for whatever the mission requires. So if you want to put a grenade launcher or a smaller gun, you can do that as well. And it fits a couple of minifigures very easily in here. It's very easy to remove like the top here. So just putting a couple figures in here. Let's see. Fit one in the driver's seat and one in the minifigure hatch. And it also has this like the bars on top and a couple studs. So if you want, you can put some more equipment in there, put some tarps and bags and everything. And you also have the shovel on top. So when I see pictures of this online from out in the field, they would put all sorts of equipment and extra stuff on the roof here. And you also have this really nice printing of the Norwegian flag and the number plate, and you have also the car logo in front there. I thought that was a nice detail. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the kit.
Gotta love that custom printing, right? Just when you get no stickers on a model, that's a satisfying feeling to open up out of the box.
Yeah, that's really, really well done on the printing. I think it looks great.
What do you think? Should we bring Landon in here now so we can talk a little bit about these minifigs?
Yeah, let's check out the figures.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, I thought the minifigures was just really well done. I was so happy with how they turned out. We had a couple options for the Norwegian military, if they were going to be like a normal desert camouflage, I think, or like the multi-cam. But we went with this one because you haven't done that one before.
Yeah, I was super excited to give these a shot. I mean, do you have your model I see in the background there? I guess a question for you: what would be like the first thing that kind of stood out to you when you were unboxing this kit? In terms of minifigures.
I really loved like the printed parts, 3D printed parts. The beard was a great inclusion. I know you were happy about that one, and also like the braid. That was one of my requests, that we also do a female, because I have a little minifigure army of my own, but a lot of the girls, they look a bit weird when they don't have hair, like they have their helmets but no hair. So that was just like a detail that I really want to add in there, and I was super happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, same here. I'm really loving the capabilities that 3D printing is allowing us, or the different variety that it's allowing us to achieve here. Especially hair like that, because yeah, I totally agree. Just helmets, they stop too high to really it makes them look like they don't have, obviously they don't have hair, and it's kind of weird, yeah, shaved up all the way to the back. I don't know. So it's cool that we're able to replicate this look. So yeah, I was pumped about that as well. The camouflage turned out interesting. It's an interesting camouflage.
Yeah, I was afraid it was gonna look like a cow or something, because it's so like the spots of dark and bright.
So I didn't look I didn't look super deep into like the history, like the development history of it, but it kind of has some like World War II Russian vibes to it actually, and then but maybe like they had their amoeba camo from World War II, but it's like a more detailed kind of shrunk down version of that almost, and that Russian camo is, at least from what I can tell, is kind of an inspiration for a lot of different camouflage patterns going forward. So that was kind of my take on that. That might not actually be what it is, but that's what it reminded me of anyway. So let's see. So this would be more of I think a bit of a desert pattern. But as far as the ammo pouches, it's more of a forested environment that you'd more commonly, I think, see those ammo pouches in. So it's a mix of gear again, which is, I always think that's interesting to me. In a lot of the pictures, I saw some like just basic like a walkie-talkie radios, just some simple like utilitarian sort of communication gear. So that was just some different things that I picked out when I was choosing that. I kept the loadout pretty simple, just because I don't have the same like robust library of unique elements compared to other countries, but it's always fun to just sort of build on and try stuff out for the first time. So yeah, I hope it complements the kit. I like the little flag on the side. It's always I just love the little flags on the side of the uniforms. It's cool.
Yeah, well, there's a nice little Easter egg in there that the male soldier, he has like a tiny little scar on his lip. And I wanted to get that little detail in there because my father, he was in Afghanistan and he was wearing that uniform, and he also has like the small scar on his lip, so I thought that was like a nice detail.
Yeah, nice little Easter egg. Yeah, I appreciated that request. I was like, that's cool. I love kind of trying to recreate maybe a little bit of resemblance in the minifigure. So, and then same thing kind of with the female. You were saying you have friends, relatives, females in the military, so it's kind of a cool nod to that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we talked about doing like a boonie hat, because in the Norwegian army the boonie hat is, at least for the female, like a fashion statement. A lot of like my female friends, they took like the boonie hats when they went home from the army, because everyone just want that hat.
Maybe next time we couldn't. It was too close of a fit to make the braid work with that, but who knows, in the future we might revisit that. So that was a good idea, I thought, as well. But for now, it's the fast helmet, which is still super awesome. Like, that's a really great combo. So yeah,
turned out great. And the uniforms, it's interesting because the uniforms, they haven't changed that much of how they look from all the way back 30 years ago. They look the same. They have been upgraded with like the texture is better and everything, like the material is better, but the uniforms just look the same. So if you want to use this as like a soldier from like Desert Storm, it works just as well, but the helmets is right now just more modern, so you can use this as like a modern kit as well as a Desert Storm kit. I think that was also really cool.
Yeah, and I'm loving again the unique camouflage pattern. Multicam is a good camo, but I don't think anything beats a country specific camo, just in terms of like just how quickly you can identify what country it is wearing it. So I love making unique camouflage patterns for each country. So yeah, and that pattern goes back a little ways, so it's pretty versatile in that respect. So
yeah, turned out great. I'm super happy about it.
Yeah. Cool. It was a lot of fun to work on this project, going back and forth. I appreciate all the cool suggestions that you had, and I hope that everybody enjoyed the outcome of the figure and the kit. So, yeah.
Okay, so that is it. The Designer Studio episode, the first of many, hopefully, with Andreas ASAP Animation for the MB240, which man, is just flying off the shelves right now. So I'd like to say that maybe there'd be some in stock by the time we drop this video, but doesn't look like it. So you'll have to wait for the next time around. But Andreas, really, really good to chat with you, and thanks for so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed.